I received so many comments on my most popular videos, like the simple pattern to find every chord in every key, or a mind-blowing trick to use diminished chords, saying that I was labeling the diminished chords wrong. So I want to settle this debate once and for all. There are kind of two schools of thoughts when it comes to labeling diminished chords. We have three different versions that we could use. The first one is like this. So we have the root, the minor third, and the diminished fifth. And there's only 3 notes in that chord. You could also play it like this. Then we have this version. This is a version with 4 notes. So we have the root, the minor third, the diminished fifth, and then we have the minor seventh. You could also play it here, or like this. And then the third version is like this. So this one has the root, the minor third, the diminished fifth, and a double flatted seventh. You can also play it like this, or like this. All useful chord shapes, right? So the first school of thought is to say that the first chord with only 3 notes right here is the diminished chord, right? And when you get the one that is double flatted, then you say that it's a diminished 7th chord. So we are going to assume that this one with 3 notes is diminished. It's just a regular diminished. And this one has 4 notes. So we're going to specify that it's a 7th chord, that we added a 7th in it. And we choose the one that is double flatted because the logic is that we're going to build minor thirds on top of each other, right? So it's like 3 frets away. So if I start from B, I go 3 frets away, D, and then F, and then A flat, so that works here, right? And the second school of thought is that this chord is the diminished chord. The 7th with the double flatted, right? We don't have to specify that it's a 7th chord because it's kind of implied. And then the one that has 3 notes only, we're going to say that it's just a minor chord flat 5, a minor flat 5. And usually the one that has just a minor 7th in it, we're going to call this a half diminished chord, right? Because the 7th is not diminished further. Or we can call this a minor 7 flat 5, right? Because now it's a minor flat 5, but with a 7th in it, right? So the problem is that I was kind of blending the two methods together. I was calling the one that is just a triad with 3 notes, I was saying it's a diminished, but the one that has the double flatted 7th, I was also saying that it's a diminished, right? So what I'm going to do from now on is that I'm going to make sure there is no ambiguity. This one that has 3 notes only, I'm always going to say that it's a diminished triad, right? The word triad means 3 notes. So by saying that it's a diminished triad, you can make sure that it's the version with 3 notes only, right? So this chord has 4 strings, 1, 2, 3, 4, but 3 notes only. I have B twice, I have D, and I have F. So 3 notes that are kind of unique in the chord, right? And when I'm going to use this one with the double flatted 7th, I'm going to say that it's a diminished 7th chord, right? To make sure that we know what we're talking about. And this one, I'm going to call it a half diminished, right? So diminished triad, half diminished, and diminished 7th chord. So now no one is going to argue with me anymore. What I do not agree that so many people told me by comments is that the triad version should be called a half diminished. And I don't agree with this because there is no 7th in the chord. It's called half diminished because we have the 7th in it, and the 7th is not double flatted. It's not diminished. It's just a minor 7th. So that's kind of the essence of what a half diminished chord is. It's not a fully diminished 7th. It's just a minor 7th in it, right? And I understand where people came from. It's because I was teaching about harmonizing a major scale. So I say, okay, the first chord is major. So we have C major, D minor, E minor, F, G, A minor, and then the 7th chord, I was using just a diminished triad, right? A B diminished triad to go back to C, but people said, no, it's supposed to be half diminished, that chord. And they're not wrong, because if you play the C major scale, the note that we should add as a 7th is supposed to be a half diminished, right? But now I was playing only with triads, not with 7th extended chords. So it's not technically right to call that chord a half diminished. Yes, it would be a half diminished if we were playing with 7th chords. But that's not what we were doing. We were playing with triads only. So I do not agree with that. If you use the term half diminished, make sure that there's the minor 7th in the chord. If there is not, call it a triad, call it a minor flat 5, call it whatever you want, but it needs to be correct in the way that you label it, right? So now let's do a little game. I'm going to play some sequences of chords, and you're going to tell me what is the right way to label that chord. So if I were to use something like this, labeling all the chords in C major, so this one, how would you call it? I think the right answers would be a B diminished triad, because we only have 3 notes. Or you could say a minor flat 5. Let's do another one. So now we have a D minor 7, and this one, how should we label it? It's a E half diminished or a E minor 7 flat 5. Both would be correct. Then we have an F major 7, and then this one would be a C sharp diminished 7th, right? Because now we have the double flatted 7th going back, leading back to the D minor 7 chord, right? So a half diminished here and a fully 7th diminished here that goes back to D minor 7, right? So if you want to know how to use the diminished chords and all of their forms musically, I have 2 resources for you. The first one is my mini course on spread triad chords that you can get, first link in the description box. It's going to give you ideas on how to use the diminished triad. Because in that course, I'm showing you spread triads, so one of these is a diminished triad. So I'm going to show you how to use it in the context of a key and give you some exercises that you can download and practice. So it's the first link in the description box. And the second resource, if you want to learn how to use the half diminished or the fully diminished 7th chord musically, check out my playlist, How to Play Chords Musically. I have an episode for each of them, and I have many tricks and tips on how to use them musically in your music. If you're writing songs or if you're improvising or such, there's a lot to be found in these lessons on how to actually use them. So I hope that it clarified the use and the terminology and the labeling of diminished chords. If you still don't agree, tell me in the comment section what is the right way you think should be, and I'm gonna see you in another video real soon. Until next time, au revoir.